All right, hello, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Allison, could we please have a roll call? You're on mute. The little button in the lower left still looks like you're on mute. Well, hold on a moment. We will have our clerk back in a moment. Got the best IT department.
You bet. Thank you.
Can you hear her?
Thank you, Andy.
Show me later what I did wrong. All right, let's go. Trustee Dornisberger is absent tonight, I understand. Trustee Eck?
Present.
Trustee Farrell-Mayer?
Here.
Trustee Kennedy?
And Trustee Kennedy just let me know he does not have a mic, so he said he would thumb up, so he just waved, so he is here.
And Trustee Metz, yes. Trustee Metz, yes.
And he's on mute.
Muted. And
I'm here.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Chris.
Trustee O'Loughlin?
Here.
And of course, Mayor Henshaw.
Here.
You were there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting, and hopefully this will be done in a month. Wanted to let everybody know that due to the Open Meetings Act pursuant to Public Act 101-0640, as well as the disaster proclamation and executive orders issued by Governor Pritzker, this meeting will be held completely remote. This is in accordance with the Open Meeting Act. Any person shall be permitted an opportunity to address the public officials under the rules established and recorded in the Indiana Head Park Municipal Code. We have had our administration email open for people to submit comments. And for the meeting, we have a text that's available for comments of 708-497-9745. All comments received in accordance with the foregoing will be read at the meeting. The village president has the right to alter the order. The stream will not be monitored by village staff and will not be read into the recording. All right, so first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please stand or do what you want, put your hand over your heart and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and in the republic
for which
we
it stands,
stand, one nation, under God, with liberty,
with
justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Okay, again, we have one trustee Kennedy that's without a mic, so he may text a comment or something to John. We'll work through that issue, and we're down one trustee. So first item on the agenda is the mayor's report. Wolf Road update. We have a tentative date of April 7th, 2022 has been set for an open house for the community members to come in and see the Wolf Road alternatives and ask questions. We will be seeking community feedback and comments for a couple weeks after the meeting. There is a slight chance the meeting may shift to another day in April, so then the 2 weeks would shift with that. We will have details on our website and social media about the open house and then after the open house. And of course, we'll talk about it next month. So should have the date set in a month. The village master sidewalk plan, we have 4 main areas in the village. Acacia Drive, the northern half of the sidewalk for Acacia Drive will be started here soon when the weather breaks. The connections to this new sidewalk are planned to Wolf Road are planned to be done when and if Cook County redoes Wolf Road. There will be a new sidewalk from Acacia Drive connecting to Black Hawk Park as part of the work this summer. Both Plainfield and Wolf Roads are county roads, and they're both in phase 1 study. And again, as I said earlier, for Wolf Road, we have a tentative date of April 7th to talk about the alternatives. And Joliet Road, we have no new updates. So those are the 4 areas for sidewalks within the village. An Acacia Drive update, as I've said, the northern section will be started here soon in a couple months. The landscaping and finishing touches will be completed after all the road work is completed. So that'll be at the end of the project. And this board has committed to making sure Acacia Drive looks good when completed. An I-294 tollway update. The southern half of the sound wall between Joliet Road and Plainfield Road, that work will be starting this summer. So they'll remove the existing wall and replace that. And there will be some noise and disruption during that period. And overall, the 294 project will continue for at least 3 more years. A COVID-19 update. The governor is lifting his mask mandate at the end of the month. We hope to be back in person for live meetings at the March Village Board meeting. And we have masks available, free masks for the first couple hundred people that come in. So you have to come in the Village Hall to pick up your mask. And my last note is to ask that if you want to get updates about the village, please sign up using the Simplicity app on your smartphone to get updates and information. Okay, with that, we go to public comments, and I know Andy has some, but we'll get his at the end. Anybody in the Zoom call want to make a comment? If you can unmute and wave so I can call you so that not everybody is speaking at once. And I don't see anybody waving or looking like they want to talk. I see Susan, and a reminder, we do have another public comments at the end of the meeting, but Susan, you're on mute, so if you unmute, you're free to talk.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were going to read my comment.
No, I had sent you an email replying if you wanted me to send that.
I was.
If you replied, it was short enough before the meeting, I didn't see it. And that to read that would take over the 3 minutes. So if you want to talk, hit the highlights of your comments rather than read that. Again, we try to limit public comments to 3 minutes.
I do understand. I think it will be under 3 minutes.
Thank you.
If read. So can I read it now? Or
yeah.
All
yes.
Right. Okay. Why it is imperative to continue with the monthly paper publications of the Smoke Signals newsletter. As part of a well-functioning, transparent, democratic body, it is of the utmost importance to keep every one of the residents of IHP informed on the issues, opportunities, events, and things that are being considered and decided on by the Board of Trustees. In December, the Communications Committee, of which I am a member of, sent out a survey to our citizens. The survey was sent by mail to every one of the households in Indian Head Park. We did this to get feedback about the village and how its citizens view our village government and its workings. One of the questions was from what source do you get information about the village? The overwhelming answer from our residents was the printed Smoke Signals newsletter. Out of the responses, out of the 266 responses, 256 answered the printed Smoke Signals newsletter. There is a graph of that. So the board's decision to move to quarterly publication is a missed opportunity for the board. The board holds monthly meetings and our villagers deserve to receive a monthly newsletter about the board's decisions, discussions, opinions shared by residents at that meeting, as well as upcoming issues to be considered at future meetings. Provided a monthly newsletter, a printed newsletter, keeps our citizens informed about these issues that affect them physically, socially, and financially. You serve at their discretion, and make decisions on their behalf. Publishing a monthly newsletter about village issues, events, board considerations gives citizens an opportunity to consider these issues proactively, attending meetings and discuss issues rationally before a final decision is made. Our residents are intelligent, well-educated people and could provide insights and ideas that would benefit the board in making decisions that better reflect resident concerns. Getting old news is worthless. It fuels distrust and anger about village government. By continuing the publishing of the monthly printed newsletter, you give our fellow citizens an opportunity to be informed about and weigh in on issues before decisions are made. By not doing that, you face hostile blowback from the people you serve. You all experienced the angry resident reaction to the decision to sell the forested land behind the homes on Keokuk, Pontiac, and Cochise to the Illinois Tollway Authority. Learning of that irreversible decision after it was made deprived effective residents of the chance to voice their concerns, thoughts, and suggestions, and they were mad, and rightly so. Good government thrives in transparency. If, as trustees, you are doing your research, talking and listening to your fellow citizens and making the best decisions for the benefit of the entire village, then you have nothing to be afraid of in sharing what's going on in the village where we live and raise our families. Making decisions behind closed doors is the mark of a governing body afraid of the citizens they serve, afraid because they know their decisions are not being made in the best interest of the majority. As a village trustee, trust is part of the title of the job you were elected to fill. Would you have confidence in a governing body, an agency responsible for your well-being that only gave you information after the fact? Democracy itself is based on an informed citizenry. What better way to inform our citizens than a monthly printed newsletter?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? I am not seeing any others. Okay, I'll go to Andy, and then if somebody does change their mind, you can wave or somehow identify. Andy, please.
Yeah, so first comment is from the Lionsville Cemetery Association. The association is supportive of Indian Head Park having a goal of making landscape improvements along Wolf Road, as our property is bordered by Wolf Road along our west side. Any planned enhancements to the landscaping would align with one of the cemetery's primary goals, which is maintaining our beautiful and natural grounds. That's the first one. And the second one is from resident Sharon Kalinowski, asking, has a vendor been chosen for the security cameras? If so, when will they be installed? Thank you. And I know that's an agenda item later on. And then the next one is from resident Dale Holmquist. Since you'll be voting and or discussing the 70th place PUD at the meeting today, I hope you'll request the following from the owner. Require that the truck storage area be asphalted and not allow just compacted dirt. Their proposal is very vague between CC and IDOT's under bridge neglect and the 294 expansion project. There are always large clumps of dirt that vehicles must drive over, then carry throughout the village and into the garages. Please require that quality materials be used will ensure that our village streets remain clean without any trucking activity. Also assure us that the Public Works will oversee any pumping and dumping of water away from the site and consider its environmental impact on Flat Creek, all in accordance with the EPA's Clean Water Act and FEMA guidelines. This is very important. Also, I don't see a financial advantage for IHP to take on this development for a mere $1,000 in annual revenue. And then I have one other comment from resident Amy Eckert. To all the board members, at a previous board meeting, all board members and the mayor stated that making Acacia Drive better than it was when discussing the delay in landscaping. It was also mentioned that there was no money in the grant to pay for landscaping and replacement of trees. It was encouraging to Acacia residents that the village board was committed to making the area look great after the construction. When reading the agenda for tonight's meeting, specifically the potential goals for 2022, it is very disappointing to see that the goal for landscaping on Acacia Drive was listed at $25,000 if needed. And then that only 3 of the current board members thought it was important enough to give any points to as a goal they thought was a priority. Questions to go along with these comments. Why is the amount listed as if needed? Why was the park area around the Heritage Center budgeted $50,000 last year for a path and benches, but Acacia Drive is only an if needed project? Who will be making the decision as to what is needed for Acacia Drive? And those are all our comments.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, one last opportunity looking, and we have no text. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as established.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Rita. Any questions or comments from the Board of Trustees on the consent agenda? Maureen, are you ready for our financial report, please?
Yes. At the end of December, cash on hand was 2.95 million. Revenue for the month was 417. You can see the warrants were about 436. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary, leaving an ending cash balance of 2.9.
Thank you, Maureen, and Andy popped that up on the screen. Any other questions or comments? I don't see any. And Sean, I don't see you making any signal that you want to comment. So Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, we can. So Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
and Trustee Kennedy. Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. Gotcha. All right, that has passed.
Thank you all. Okay, on the agenda, we are on new business appointment of Michael Kernick as Chief of Police. John?
I would recommend that you assist.
Oh, okay. I hereby appoint Michael Kernick to be the Chief of Police effective immediately.
I make a
Would-
motion to affirm the mayor's appointment of Michael Kernick as Chief of Police effective immediately.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Rita. Are there any comments, explanation? Anybody on the board have any comments? Okay, Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee O'Loughlin
Aye.
and Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy. Thank you. And Trustee Eck.
Welcome, Mike, and aye.
All right, and for the record, Trustee Kennedy had a thumbs up for that vote and the prior vote, so he had voted affirmative. Pat, is that okay? Are we trying to do the best we can in our technology issue?
I think we're doing the best we can.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we'd like to do the oath of office. Brenda, are you prepared to do the oath of office with Mike?
I am. This is a
Thank
little
you.
difficult. And then, are you ready, Mike?
I'm ready.
Okay. I, Michael Kernick,
I, Michael Kernick,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Chief of Police
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Chief of Police
of the Village of Indian Head Park
of the Village of Indian Head Park
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mike.
I
And,
appreciate your confidence in me, and I'll do the best job I can.
Thank you. And next month, and when we're in person, if we want to have the pictures and bring the family in, maybe even do it again just to get that moment, that's up to you, Mike, okay?
Sounds good. Thank
Because
you.
normally we do it in the front and it's a great occasion and, it's a little different on Zoom, not quite the same. Okay, moving on to the next item, the security camera update. Mike?
Well, the committee has been meeting off and on, and we decided that we need to toss out the request for proposals that we've received already. We'd like to go ahead with the two companies that we believe are providing the best product for us, being Facade cameras, which is under the Motorola umbrella now, and then the Flock camera system, which we've been testing both of them intermittently for the last month or so. Facade is the camera company that has been chosen by the Illinois State Police, state of Illinois, to monitor the expressway system, mainly the Dan Ryan and the Eisenhower Expressway at this time. They currently have 125 cameras up and running. They've been very satisfied with their product and the number of captures that they've had. Flock is also a front runner in the program. I shouldn't say they're a front runner. They're with Facade as being two of the companies that we think are best suited for our purposes right now.
Mike, while you were talking, I think Andy put a slide up on the screen. Do you want to talk to that?
Yes, two of the initial proposals or thoughts are that we're going to go with the Joliet Road eastbound at Vine Street. This will, and let me go back. So Joliet Road eastbound at Vine Street, and then westbound on Joliet Road, somewhere in the area of Brookside Plaza. This will let us capture the vehicles coming into town on Joliet Road, coming off the expressway or coming through from Willow Springs Road. On the northern side of town, one of the considerations is to capture the cameras coming into town from Plainfield Road, or off of 294. Ideally, we'd like to put them over by Keokuk, but with the construction going on right now, I don't think that's a very good location to do that for our continuing test project. Final placement, Keokuk would be an ideal situation for capturing cars coming in over 294. These are just two considerations. Both companies, Flock and Vigilant, have not been able to come out and meet due to their scheduling. We're scheduled to do next week. We're going to do a walkthrough with both companies and get their opinion on where the best locations are for our project right now. We'd like to do a head-to-head evaluation by putting both companies' cameras in the same location so we can compare apples to apples. And this way we'll get the same vision or same look at the vehicles coming through at those locations.
Mike, we went out to bid, right? And I know you talked about we want to cancel the bid, and that'll be our next agenda item. But we had 3 vendors come back, and one of them, Flock, worked that did what we asked, right? So we really only had one vendor that worked. Is that correct?
Flock works, Vigilant works, the Proven IT using the Facade cameras. twice at least, they failed to come through with what we asked for. They never provided the LPR feature that they said they could do. Well, if they could do it, they should have done it.
And LPR is?
The license plate readers, which is will identify a stolen vehicle coming into town, a vehicle that has been put on the state police hot list with a wanted driver, wanted for whatever reasons, and that hot list is put out every morning at 8 to 9 o'clock by the state police, and then it is added into the camera system. So we would be alerted when there is a stolen car coming into town. Going back to the proven IT though, they failed on multiple requests to provide cameras with LPR service so we could, include them for comparison. They gave us a camera of a beach in California. They gave us a view of a gymnasium in California. And while they were great pictures and they might serve to do the village hall or public works locations, or if we're going to do a camera at Blackhawk or Sacagawea Park, they might be the company to use. But for the LPR that we are looking for, I think that we can totally disregard them at this time.
And Mike, just to clarify, in the beginning, you were mentioning the state police with Facade. You really meant with Vigilant, correct?
Vigilant, yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just one clarification.
And Mike, sorry, Mike, these cameras are not monitored, right? They're used, the stolen car camera, if we get an alert and the camera catches it, the police would get a message, or they would be able to react. But for the most part, these cameras are not monitored, and they would be used if we had an incident. Is that correct?
Correct. There's no intention for a police officer, secretary, a records clerk, Andy, me sitting in front of a bank of cameras to watch. It is all a recorded situation. If we had an event take place in one of our subdivisions, we could then pull up the vehicles that were trailing on the most likely roads that the offenders were traveling on. Right now, we are restricted with the number of cameras we're doing, but again, we aren't going to spend $200,000 and outfit the whole town with a camera system that we're really not sure of.
Andy, can you take down the image? So Mike, the plan is we're going to get these 4 cameras from FOC and 4 from Vigilant and get them installed. And then we will learn from them. And at some point after 3 months, 6 months, a year, the plan is to come back to the board with so what we believe we've learned and then how we want to go forward. Is that accurate?
I agree with you 100%. And I think that by having a lack of a better term, a dueling camera system where both cameras are set up in the same location under the same lighting conditions, same darkness, same snowstorm, that this will give us a very good idea on which product is going to serve us properly. If you'd like me to talk about the cost for the project initially, the Vigilant camera systems are $2,250 per camera, and that is installed. There's no additional fees as long as we can put those up on some type of existing poles, buildings that would be accessible. If for some reason we would have to put up a pole, ballpark figure is $1,500 because it depends on how that pole would need to be configured specifically. So it could range between $1,000 and $2,000 per installation, but that is only if they cannot put it on an existing pole or building. and that is again for the Facade cameras. I'm sorry, Vigilant cameras. The flock cameras are a $2,500 purchase price, and those would be $250 on the installation.
And Mike, there is no back-end server, right? This is all, both systems are cloud-based, so it's not that we have to have an infrastructure.
They're all cloud-based, nothing here in our building. Multiple logins, we would restrict it. Again, I know that I've seen some people comments when I look on the internet for different concerns about it. People are concerned that, these cameras are going to be aimed in my bedroom because they watch too much TV. The FBI program, I always get a kick out of it because these cameras are placed on sidewalks, and let's get a look at this camera view. These cameras are stationary; they don't move. They're not adjustable. They're adjustable. We got up on the pole and turned the camera to face in a different direction, but they're not video cameras to zoom in on somebody. And again, that technology would be great, but that's not what we're looking for, and that is not what we need here in Indian Park. I know that somebody was talking about, they're going to zoom in on a bedroom window for a resident. That's not the intention, and these cameras cannot be altered or adjusted to do something like that.
Mike, can you cover the stolen car, the license plate, or the Amber Alert license plate, how we would get notified if we're not sitting there monitoring? How do we know that, the bad person came through town?
The notifications would go out to the officer's cell phones and the laptops in the squad cars. It would notify them that the vehicle was cited, southbound Wolf Road, northbound, whatever it might be. And then the officers would have the ability to respond to it. They're saying that the delay in the whole process from the car being recognized as being a car in question would be about 4 to 5 seconds. So that does give us adequate time to respond to a given area where we know that the car is northbound on Wolf Road or southbound on Wolf Road, coming into town off of 294 at Joliet Road and Vine. So that and my intention isn't so much for us to be able to get out there and chase the guy down and capture the stolen auto. Ideally, that would be nice, but that's not my intention. I don't think it's the committee's intention either, where we want to be able to put several squad cars into that area where we believe that stolen car is going to, prevent a home burglary or something else taking place in town.
Mike, we had the group looking at this had talked about a number of cameras, and so we're starting out small. I don't believe the group thinks this is the solution, but the start. How many cameras had we talked about potentially looking at? And then had we looked at maybe associations or neighborhoods getting a camera?
In regard to the number of cameras, ultimately, I would like to see all of the entrances to town. So we're talking about something done on Indianwood facing northbound to capture any car coming in from, the Burr Ridge area, off of the Tollway at Wolf Road. So basically, that is about 16 to 18 cameras, I believe that number was, for covering all the entrances to town. Obviously, a car cutting through Tony's parking lot, could circumvent being caught on a camera on Joliet Road. But again, ultimately, the cars that are coming down the main roads of traffic would require 16 to 18 cameras. The associations, both companies say that what they've experienced is that a lot of the different HOAs will purchase their own cameras and share them with the police department. I know Burr Ridge's camera system is mainly made up of HOAs, where Burr Ridge currently does not have all that many police department-owned, village-owned cameras throughout town. They are going to be adding more cameras to their system, and just like us, they're starting out small and they're going to expand. A lot of towns, I don't know off the exact count, but I'm guessing 30 to 40 towns have already requested access to our camera system, and they then extend their cameras to us. Some are a little far-fetched from Miami asking for permission to join our camera system. I don't think we're going to have an immediate problem with some car from Miami coming up here, but the neighboring towns, Shorewood, Shannon, Darien, Downers Grove, are the local towns. Those are the ones that our bad guys are going to be seen on when we put in. And let me change course here a little bit. When we have an incident where we have a theft involving a known suspect car, we can then put that car into the system, and our car would then register in these other towns that just like the other towns would put in their wanted cars. So this is another way that it will benefit us as far as tracking down an offender.
I'm sorry for all my interruptions. Mike, Brenda, did you have any interruptions?
No, I'm just really excited, Mike, that we're finally moving forward and trying to get this done for the village and for the community. It's something that we've really been wanting to achieve this year, and I'm glad we're going to finally get it done.
And I have a question.
Go ahead,
First,
Chris.
I want to say congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
But the second, do these cameras, do we have any idea how long they are expected to last? What's their life expectancy?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would assume that they're a 5 to 10 year camera. I believe, but I'm not sure. I think Flock upgrades their cameras as long as we are with their system.
So
if we
are there monthly fees on top of the price of the camera?
Yes, it's $2,200, $2,250 a year per camera.
That's like a maintenance fee too, a monthly fee, Chris. Yes, support.
Okay.
They come out,
So-
both of these companies do the installation. It's not that where we have to go out and get another vendor. There's no hidden cost in this. Like I said, they give us the initial camera at $2,250 for vigilance, and there's no additional installation cost or charges associated with that unless we cannot put it on an existing pole or a building. With electrical, we're looking at all solar power for these, good and bad. We're not Scottsdale, Arizona, where we have 99% sun every day. But again, the battery life is there for 2 or 3 days, and I don't think we've ever had that much snow or cloud cover. Can it happen? Sure, it can happen. But if we wind up experiencing that, we can always look at the alternative of adding power to a given location.
So basically, Flock and Vigilant, they will be in charge. They're going to be the project managers as far as making sure everything is installed correctly, the training is completed to the police department, et cetera. Correct, Mike?
Yes, the training has been ongoing from day one with both companies. They've responded to any questions I've had, and even with Steve, they responded to any questions or how do we do this, how do we do that. They were very quick with their customer service. One day, my computer was locked up completely on their program, and they had me back up and running in 2 or 3 minutes. It was some type of connection that we had no dealings with. It was all on their end, and they were very prompt with their service. Polite, good people, I think, both companies.
Chris, other questions? Any, Rita, Charlie?
No.
All right, again,
I'm
this,
good. I went and looked at the images, and I do like the idea that's being suggested that we put them both up at the same poll to see which one actually does better job for us as well. I think that's an excellent idea.
Again, this
Going
is a
back-
two-part process. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Going back to Charlie's comment about the head-to-head competition, Charlie came in and we were looking at the cameras one day and they were getting kind of washed out from one of the cameras. And we thought that, oh, maybe this was a flaw in their camera system. Well, it's the angle of the sun that whatever it was, 10 o'clock in the morning, it just washed out everything. We've all experienced it driving down the road at 7 o'clock in the evening into the sunset. You're blinded. Well, the camera's going to get blinded too. But again, head-to-head competition, the dueling banjos situation, I think that'll give us a real good idea where we can compare the cameras to each other.
Mhm.
All right, I don't see any other trustee comments. Brenda, do you want to make a motion for the next item?
Yes, I'll make a motion to reject all the bids received on November 30th, 2021 for the video surveillance system and to direct staff to purchase up to 4 cameras each from 2 vendors for testing purposes.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, any other questions? So this is the formality of throwing out the bid that we did. We may come back and do another bid. Who knows? Kind of depends after the trial with the 2 systems. All right, I don't see any trustee looking like they have questions. Clerk Allison, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
trustee Eck,
Aye.
trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy,
Thumbs up.
and trustee Metz.
Thank you
Thank
all. That's been approved. Next item is the selection of village auditing firm.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to hire Lauterbach and Amen as the village's auditor based on their proposal for up to a 4-year term for a total cost not to exceed $25,700 for the first year.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris and Charlie. John, any explanation, comments?
Periodically, the village goes out for requests for proposals for auditing services. This is twofold.
Mayor,
Yes?
we can't hear John.
Oh, can't hear John. I don't know if you,
How about now? Can you hear me now?
A little better.
A little better.
Let me increase the volume. All right. Every 4 years or so.
I muted him. I think you're good.
Okay. Every 4 years or so, the village goes out for bids for auditing services. This is twofold. One is to make sure that we are getting the best possible price for auditing services. And 2, to make sure that other vendors have a chance to bid on our services to mix up auditing services. It's good to change auditors periodically. So this year, the village went out for proposals. We received 3. One was from the current auditor, Sikich, who provides excellent services for us, by the way. But their quote came in at $137,000. The next quote was from Selden Fox at $117,000. And the final one was from Lauterbach and Aben for a total cost of $101,000 over 4 years. So a spread of $35,000 for auditing services. Lauterbach and Amen proposed the same amount of hours that Sikich did, so they knew what they were bidding on. Selden Fox proposed much less in the way of hours. So I don't think that they understood the full needs of the village. Reference checks for Lauterbach and Amen came back very positive. They actually audited one of our village attorney's clients, and other reference checks proved to be that they provide very good services. So it is staff's recommendation that we look for a 4-year term with Lauterbach and Amen, and there's always an out. If they do wrong by us, we can always part ways. But I think it's a good move for the village. we save $35,000 over 4 years, and that is our recommendation.
Any questions, comments, trustees? I don't see any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
trustee Eck,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy.
Yes,
Sorry. Yes,
thumb
thank
is
you.
up.
Okay. And trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, that has passed.
Thank you, everybody, for approving that. Next item. Rita, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I make a motion based on the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the development at 11320 70th Place.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Charlie and Rita. Andy,
Yes.
you ready to talk about this?
Yeah, so at the last Planning and Zoning Commission, the commission recommended on a vote 7-0 to recommend this plan unit development on 70th Place, which was established by the board in 2020 to kind of foster and plan out development, more so related to industrial or transportation, as opposed to the more commercial development in the Triangle PUD. And this would be a, so first off, the developer is a man by name of Mr. Kostic. He's owned the property for a while, and he would like to develop the site into a lot for truck or trailer parking. The lot would be for about 5 to 10 semi-trucks or trailers, and the idea would be that it would be a place for drivers to go after they dropped off whatever goods they needed to ship, and then they would go there to get their personal vehicles. Also on the call tonight, we have Kate Duncan, who is the attorney who is representing Mr. Kostic in this development effort. And I'll pass it off to her to give a little description as well and answer any questions that that board might have.
Hey, thank you, Andy. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and trustees. My name is Kate Duncan. I'm an attorney and I represent Truck Center Kostic is actually the name of the formal applicant and owner of the property. Sasha Kostic is the man who actually is the owner of the entity and of the property. So Mr. Kostic is actually seeking to use the property for parking and storage for semi-trailers and tractors, as Andy had described. He believes that the area will fit 5 to 10 vehicles. And the plan is for the driver of the truck to be able to park his personal vehicle on the site while he takes his truck and makes his deliveries. And then he will use the parking lot to swap out the empty trailer for his personal vehicle. So it's sort of a holding ground for the personal vehicle and then for the truck in between deliveries. The plan development allows for this use as long as we come to you and request approval for the plan development. So that's why we're here this evening. The property is triangular in shape. It's bounded by Route 55. Indian Head Park's Public Works facility is across the street. And then on the west of the parcel is another property that's also used for truck parking. So Mr. Kostic is actually proposing to make improvements to the lot, including grading the site, removing topsoil and any materials in the parking area. He's going to reshape the roadside ditch. He's going to install a driveway culvert, and he will pave the lot with compacted materials. The site is a very small site. It's less than 14,000 square feet. And so the uses for this particular site are limited, considering the types of uses that are allowed in the plan development. There will be 2 curb cuts off of 70th Place in order to access the site. One will be for ingress, the other will be for egress. So it's one way in and one way out. So the traffic should flow very smoothly. And again, it's a very small use, only 5 to 10 trucks and personal vehicles will be able to be on the site. So we have reviewed all of the standards for granting of the plan development, and we believe we've satisfied all of those standards. We've provided a full application package with an explanation of all the various criteria. But I'm here to answer any questions you might have related to this project.
Thank you, Kate. Charlie, I see you. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Kate, for being here. The trucks that are to be parked there, are they primarily to be used for state of Illinois activity, or might they be interstate, or do we know?
I actually don't necessarily know the answer to that. I would have to ask the client that. I can tell you that they will be empty. They're not going to be stored there with goods in them. They will be empty trucks. They will not have goods in them. But I don't know whether the trucks will be traveling interstate or whether it's primarily Illinois. I can find that out though.
Does this include both the truck and the trailer, or just the trailer?
It may be both the truck and the trailer. Both parts of the vehicle may be used and stored in the lot, correct?
Okay, and he operates truck rental facilities similar to this in Illinois and Indiana, as I recall?
Yes, sir, that's correct. In Illinois and Indiana, he operates this similar type of business.
The clients that he has, do they rent for a specific period of time, such as monthly rental or longer?
I think ordinarily it's longer, but it is a specified period of time that his clients will rent, correct?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate, I got a question from Trustee Kennedy. He asked if the trucks will have hazardous materials, the trailers will have hazardous materials.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. No, the trailers, when they are stored on the site, will be empty. They're not going to have any, they will only come back to the site once they've finished unloading wherever it is they need to unload, and then they will come back and be stored on the site empty.
Other questions from the trustees?
Yes, I do.
I have one for our attorney in regards to the type of interstate or strictly state of Illinois usage. Are there opportunities for the village to request some kind of a license for those trucks that are parked in a lot like this?
You know, it's a good question. Unfortunately, vehicles like this, interstate vehicles like this are governed by the ICC. And
She didn't say they were all interstate. Some might be Illinois only.
Same thing. Say they're regulated by the ICC as well as the state, and local municipalities are preempted from imposing local licensing requirements on them. We might be able to look at other regulations, but in terms of licensing, you know, something like that, we're preempted.
Thank
All right,
you.
I think I saw Chris
I have a
and then
question.
Rita.
Yeah, now this might be a question for John or maybe the chief. Do we allow street parking right there?
No.
No? So they could not park their, they couldn't park their cars on the street, leave them there during the day? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And Rita?
Yeah, I would just mention, I was at the zoning meeting when this was presented to the zoning board as well. And I think an important thing to remember is the land has been unused for a very long period of time. It's not suitable for a building because of its size and location. So this is going to, you know, bring something to the village where there's been nothing for a long time. And we will realize a little revenue, not a lot, but some.
Trustee Eck, did you have something else?
No, just a little itch.
All right, any other questions from trustees or comments? Okay, seeing none, Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Trustee Farrell Mayor.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
I'll abstain.
Okay, let me write that down. Trustee Kennedy. Thank you.
Thumbs up.
Trustee Metz
Aye.
and Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, it's been approved.
Thank you very
all.
much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Kate. Night. Okay, Rita, you want to make a motion for our next ordinance?
Yes, I make a motion to pass based on the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, ordinance 2022-02, an ordinance allowing as a special use a shed at 6557 Howard.
Second that motion.
Thank you, Charlie and Rita. Andy, do you want to go over that?
So this was the shed that was tabled 2 months ago to be brought back up at this meeting. And the staff and the commission are recommending approval of it. The commission vote was 7-0. The commission also did add an amendment to the motion to make it so that if the shed were to ever come down for any reason, it would not be able to be put back up. The commission voted in favor of permitting the shed due to the fact that it was an existing shed that's been there for a long time. And the reason that matters is because the shed ordinance grants special consideration to homeowners with existing sheds who've gotten the signatures of their adjacent homeowners saying that they don't object to the placement, which the homeowner did. And so based off of that, the commission as well as village staff is recommending approval.
Charlie?
Yeah, Andy, we took out the provision that if something happened to the shed, that it could not be rebuilt. Is that correct?
Right now, that is in the ordinance still, because that's the way it was recommended, but the board is free to amend it as they would desire.
Then I move to eliminate that provision because that's the only one in all of these that we've done. So I move to amend the motion to eliminate that particular provision. And I need a second.
And the provision you're talking about is the one that says if it falls down, it cannot be replaced. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So just procedurally, so you're making a substitute motion unless trustee Farrell Mayer, who made the original motion, would like to amend her motion. Otherwise, trustee Ack is making a substitute motion that would require a second.
I need a second to discuss it if we may.
I'll
Can
second
I-
it. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about that before anything further? Or I'm wondering why we have that provision in there, whereas we don't for any of the other recommendations.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't want to speak totally for the commission, but I believe that the reasoning behind it for some of the commissioners was that they thought that maybe if this was a home that was applying for a new shed as opposed to an existing shed, that they may not have granted it. But they gave it special consideration because it was an existing shed. And that's why I believe they added the measure in there or the amendment in there because of that. I don't want to speak for all of them, but that was my takeaway from it as to why they did that.
I would just like to add, I have the minutes from that meeting, and it does state that the shed was outside of the buildable area. And I don't know if that was part of it, but Commissioner Svetska made the motion to amend the petition to include the provision that the approval would be conditional. If the shed is gone for any reason, it cannot be replaced. So that is in the minutes, but there is no actual statement why, other than it was noted that the shed was outside the buildable area.
And a lot of the sheds in the Robert Bartlett area are outside the buildable area. And we provided for their acceptance in the original ordinance that we passed several months ago. I just think that this is an item that kind of red circles this particular one, and it's not supported by what we're doing with the other sheds, whether they're in or out of the buildable area. Andy, are any of the other ordinances have this particular requirement in it?
No, none of them do.
Okay.
So I think, Charlie, you made that substitute motion, and I think Rita seconded that. Is that
I
correct?
did.
So we're
Yeah.
talking about this now. Other questions or comments?
Just that portion of the amendment is to eliminate that one clause, that's all.
Mhm.
And I would just interject really quickly, to be clear, this shed, along with all the other sheds, they're gonna have to, just to remind everyone, they're gonna have to get a screening inspection in July to make sure that it's properly screened, and also meets the other standards of the ordinance, just so everyone is on the same page.
Andy, do you know how old that shed is?
It was, I believe it was built in the 1950s or 1960s.
And any idea of the condition of the shed?
The shed is in good condition. I have a picture. There's a picture of it in your packets. Yeah, it's a well-maintained shed. It's a normal shed. It's red like a barn. But yeah, it's in good condition.
Andy, if any shed, whether it's in a buildable area or not in a buildable area, something happens to the shed and the homeowner wants to rebuild the shed, don't they have to come back to the village for a request to do that?
They would for a building permit, but if they already have the special use granted, then that part's taken care of. But they would come back anyways for a building permit.
Right.
All right, any other questions or comments? Again, we're talking about the motion that Rita made that substitute, I'm sorry, we're talking about Charlie's substitute motion that drops the condition that if the shed falls down, it can't be replaced. Any other questions or comments? All right, I don't see any. So I think we are voting, Clerk Allison, if we could take a roll call vote on the substitute motion made by Charlie and seconded by Rita.
All right, this is for the amended version, the amendment. Trustee, let's see, where are we here? Well, let's just go down the line. Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
He says yes. Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. That's been approved. On to the next item. Rita?
Yeah, I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-03, an ordinance allowing as a special use a fence at 1524 65th Place. And I will note that for the board's information, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not approve that.
Tom, I think we need to vote on.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, hang on a second.
We need a second to get it on the table before comment.
We need,
Yeah, I need a second.
Vote on the first motion.
Yeah, we still have to vote on, Rita, we still have to vote on your first motion,
Yeah.
which is 2202, and we just amended it.
No,
and
no,
now
no,
we need-
no,
Now we
no,
need to vote on its acceptance.
The substitute motion, the substitute motion took precedent over the initial motion.
Okay, all right.
So therefore, the vote on that passed the item. So we're on to the next item.
Dan,
all
correct?
right, so Rita has made the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Charlie. Andy?
Yes, so this is for a fence, as Trustee Farrell Mayor said, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend that the board does not approve the ordinance. The motion was made in the affirmative, that's why there's the ordinance in the affirmative for you. But to be clear, both staff and the commission are recommending that you vote no. And the reason why is because the criteria to get a special use for a fence in this case is just not met. And because of that, we're recommending to vote no.
Any questions or comments? I'm looking, I do not see any. Clerk Allison, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
No.
Trustee Eck,
No.
Trustee Kennedy,
He says no, thumbs down.
Trustee Metz,
No.
and Trustee O'Loughlin.
No.
No. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so that was not approved. Item G, Rita?
Okay, hang on one second.
I think it's H.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah. I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance allowing as a special use a shed at 1724 Acacia Lane.
Second.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie. Andy?
All right, so this one is for a shed. This one is for a new shed and it is in the buildable area. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval, and village staff is recommending approval as well.
Comments or questions? I do not see any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Yes.
Trustee Eck,
Yes.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Yes.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
and Trustee Kennedy.
Thumbs up
Thank
saying
you.
yes.
Okay,
Right. Okay, I'd make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-05, an ordinance allowing as a special use a shed at 6527 Laurel Avenue.
Second.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie again. Andy?
Yes, so this ordinance is very similar. It's just slightly different. This one also would grant a variance to this property. The reason being that this property is actually kind of pretty unique. Since it was built prior to annexation to the village, it was not built under the village building code. And because of that, technically, the buildable area is a very small slice of the entire property. And so there really is no buildable area to put the shed into. And because of that, village staff and the commission by a vote to 6-1 are recommending approval of not only the special use for the shed, but also the variance for it to exist. So with that, if there's any questions, you can take them, but similar to the last one.
All right.
Andy, on the agenda, it uses the word fence rather than shed, but just to be clear for everybody, we are talking about a shed here, right?
Yeah, well, this homeowner actually applied for both. So this one's for the shed. I think the next item is for the fence application.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, looking at the trustees. Do not see any comments. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Farrell Mayor,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Metz. Trustee Metz?
Trustee Metz is muted.
Aye.
Yes, thank you. And Trustee Kennedy?
Thumb
Thank
up.
you. All right,
Yes.
that's approved.
All
Rita?
right, I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-06, an ordinance allowing as a special use a fence at 6527 Laurel Avenue, same address.
Second.
Thank you, Rita and Charlie. Andy?
Yes, so this one, same property we just talked about, although this one's for a fence, and like the earlier one, it just doesn't meet the criteria for a special use to be granted. So the commission recommended on a vote 7-0 that you do not approve the ordinance, and staff is recommending the same.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the trustees? I don't see any. Clerk Allison?
Okay, we're ready. Trustee Farrell Mayor.
No.
Okay, Trustee Eck,
No.
Trustee Kennedy. Kennedy, thank you.
Says
Trustee
no.
Metz
No.
and Trustee O'Loughlin.
No.
All right, that did not pass.
All right, thank you, Clerk Allison and everybody. We're moving on to item K. Approved
Okay.
task. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following task orders submitted by Thomas Engineering, $55,551.41 for engineering for the 2022 sanitary sewer Rehabilitation Program, and $15,096.41 for the MWRD Compliance Engineering.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brenda. Chris and Brenda. Is this Andy or John?
I'll take this one. You have before you two task orders. The first one in the amount of $50,000 is for our sanitary sewer rehabilitation program. This work is basically inspection and slip lining of sanitary sewers as needed within the village. And the second task order is for Thomas Engineering to complete our required MWRD reporting for our sanitary sewer system. Both items are budgeted.
Any questions, comments? I'm looking around, I don't see any. Clerk Allison?
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy. Thank you. Trustee Farrell Mayor
Aye.
and Trustee Eck.
Aye.
All right, that's been approved.
All right, thank you. We're on to the item L, village goals. This is something that the village board looks at as specific items to improve the village. We have several items, and this was in your packet. People can see how the trustee allotted points to somewhat rank the items. We're at the point where the trustees talk about which goals they'd like to do. The last reading of the budget, we had approximately 100,000 or between 50 and 100,000. Is that right, John, for this?
But it's actually looking more like 150 to 200,000.
All right, so John just said the number is looking like 150 to 200. So that will can impact which goals the trustees would like to do. So with all that said, any trustee want to talk about the village goals and which ones they would like to do?
Tom, how about you explain the goals? I know that you're very much on top of these. You compile all this
Okay.
data.
Thank you, Chris. That's a good point. As the village looked at these goals, I know there are several ways that this could be done. I know we had a comment at the last meeting that we needed specific amounts and costs and items. But what we have attempted to do is have a placeholder, and I know it's kind of hard to say. I'll use the first one. Long-range plan for village staff and facilities, 80,000. So this would be looking at what the future growth of the village may be and all the departments and all the buildings. And John DeRocher, village administrator, estimated that this effort would be about 80,000. The way that we would work, if this is a chosen goal, is we would actually then start looking into it to get an exact number, and John's estimate of 80 may be spot on, or it could be 150,000. And whatever the answer is, we would come back at a board meeting and say, this is what it looks like. And we would have an update and we would say it's more or less or whatever the deal is. So it's kind of, again, a placeholder to begin the investigation in earnest. So that's the first item, is long-range planning. The second one is saving for a potential Wolf Road landscaping, and it's listed as $1 million. If the board wanted to do this, I don't think any of us believe we could save $1 million this year, but we might be able to save 100,000 or 150,000 and do that for the next 2 or 3 years, so that we had money if the project is approved by the county. And if it's done, then we may have money set aside for landscaping. So that's the second item. The third item is Triangle Facade improvements. This is something that the Economic Development Committee is looking at in trying to spruce up the area by Indian Head Plaza. And this would be working with that business owner So we have some information and we don't have all the details figured out, but again, that's what this third goal is. The fourth goal is more community events for 10,000. I think the board or the suggestion was maybe another movie in the park. I believe we were planning to do the car show again. So then whether it's another movie in the park to have 3 or maybe music in the park, something like that. So again, if this is something the board selects, the Parks Committee would go off and look into what our options are and what we can do, and then what the costs are. So we try to get a rough estimate, and we think 10,000 would do a couple more community events. The next item is a better sound system for the Village Hall, and that's $5,000. We have complaints periodically that people can't hear either on a video or watching this. Sometimes in the room, people say they can't hear. And so this would be investigating if we need new speak microphones or if we need training how to use the microphones or whatever we need to do, or maybe the lapel type. Again, not sure what the answer is. Item 6 on the list is Sacagawea Park improvements. That's basically to install power, but there may be some other things. And I believe the power would be put to the gazebo so we could do, say, Christmas lights or different things at the gazebo. Item 7, a new sign at the corner of Joliet and Wolf. That's where the undeveloped lot is, kind of kitty corner from the old Dome property. And that sign, the thinking was another kind of welcome to Indian Head Park like we have at Wolf and Plainfield. The next item is 8, a new sign at the Village Hall. When the work is happening for Acacia Drive, I believe that the sign that we have in front of Village Hall will have to be dug up and moved. So this is potentially getting a new sign again, like the one at Wolf and Plainfield Road. Number 9, Blackhawk Park improvements, excuse me. Things like sports courts, landscaping, a dog run, and 200,000, might be close and it may be way off, but again, ideas would be coming if the board wants to go down that path. Number 10, Acacia Drive landscape if needed, 25,000. I know we got a comment early in the meeting about this one. I think that the board has committed to making that look nice. I think that's why this may have not gotten more points associated. So I think this is already something that we've committed to do, but that's my view. And trustees can talk later when we get done with my summary. Number 11, a new electronic sign for 50,000. For those familiar with the area, like the Pleasantdale Fire building on Plainfield Road or the Highland School, an electronic sign somewhere in the village. We did not specify what location, but it would be, to broadcast news and information about the village. Whether this would be one of 3 or the only one, again, would have to figure that out. And I know the prices for the signs range from like 35,000 or 30,000 to 100,000. And so kind of picked a midpoint there, again, as a placeholder. And then the last one, number 12, was to investigate the acquisition of a vacant lot for a new neighborhood park. And that was put at 250,000, which is roughly the cost of a vacant lot in Indian Head Park. Any questions from the trustees about any of those or any comments about any of those? Charlie.
In your view, what would the next step be?
Well, we would ideally at this meeting kind of zero in on the ones that we can do. And with John's news tonight that the potential discretionary money for the goal is 150 to 200,000. If you add up the goals, like the first one as example, 80,000 that falls in with that. Saving with Wolf Road, that could be the other So it could be 80 for that and 100 for the savings for Wolf Road as an example. So we start talking about which ones the trustees want to do and try to prioritize them.
I'm going to start with a simple one, and that's the sound system. And I have a question for John about that. Do you think we're able to get reimbursed for that, a grant from the Cable Commission?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's one that isn't necessarily going to cost us anything. I think it's worth investigating. Further, the Wolf Road landscaping, I definitely think we need to set aside some money for that. And I agree, we're not gonna be able to come up with $1 million, but we need to come up with something. It's the Wolf is the main thoroughfare through the town, through our town, and I think it would be terrific to make it look terrific for our residents if and when the Wolf Road is rebuilt.
Thanks, Chris. Other comments?
I think I'd agree with Chris in regards to Wolf Road for sure. And I think we do need to do some long-range planning with the village. I think that there's a number of items on here that we can, agree to with this. And so, we've kind of voted. So you kind of have a priority. So let's, number 2 is more events, So.
I did have a comment from Sean, and again, Sean is technology challenge for tonight. He was asking about the sound system, and I believe trusting Dave, our AV person, our TV station manager, that our microphones are good, that we're not using them right. We may not be talking into them when we're at a meeting, or may not be pushing the button. But I think Chris's point about due to the cable agency and our association with that if we needed new microphones, we could get that. So I almost suggest that we can proceed ahead with that regardless, because if we do need something, then John can most likely get that reimbursed. So if that's okay with everybody, and I know that's been a complaint, not every time and not every meeting, but occasionally, John, if you're okay looking into that.
I will.
So we can take that one off the list again, because that will not cost money, and a goal doesn't have to cost money, but this one doesn't sound like it will. So if everybody's okay with that, I think we can cut that one off the list. Rita?
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. I think we've given you our feedback on this, and that's the direction of the board, and we should just move forward to the extent we can based on our financial situation.
Okay, so if I'm hearing Charlie and Rita, that would be the long-range plans for the village facilities, again, estimated to be 80,000. That means John would look into that more in depth. And then the savings potential, or the savings for potential Wolf Road landscaping, that would be the remainder of any money. If it's say 200,000, and if it's 80, that would be 120,000. Is that what Charlie and Rita are saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like them. Sean, again, being electronically challenged, said the electronic sign could get rid of the smoke signals, trying to lobby for that. Sean, my view on that is I think it would help get information out, but I don't think we can get rid of the website or get rid of smoke signals by having the sign. I think it's just another point, and I have no doubt someday the village will have an electronic sign, but it didn't seem to rise up high enough on the list. It's my view, but I know again you're electronically challenged, so I wanted to address your comment and then keep moving on. So I've got 2 for the long range plan and saving for Wolf Road. Brenda, Chris, Sean. Your thoughts, and Brenda, you're muted if you're talking.
So you're saying right now that we have two. How much money are we putting aside for Wolf Road, et cetera?
Well, I think the way I would look at it, again, using the 80 as the estimate, then if John is right and we have 200, that would be 120,000 for Wolf Road, right? 200,000 minus 80 leaves 120. If it's 150,000, then that would leave 70,000. So I think we're saying to do the long range planning and save anything left for Wolf Road is, I believe, kind of what I'm getting from Charlie and Rita.
And that because, I mean, what I agree that we should be putting money away, but why can't we do some of the other items as well and maybe not put away 120,000? You know, maybe we just come up with some number and put it away and continue to move forward with a few other items.
Which other items are you suggesting?
Go straight down the list. You know, in the order of what the board voted for. Just
well, number 3 is the triangle facade improvements, 350,000. And again, there's a lot of questions in the mechanics of that, but that's a pretty big hit that would, you know, if we wanted to do that, might cancel out the 2 that we've already talked about. So
right.
I don't see how we squeeze that one in.
Right. And there's still a lot of questions on that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
So then more community events.
Oh, I think I'm looking at a different list. What I'm looking at in 1, 2, 3, 1 is Wolf Road, 2 is community events, 3 is 80,000 for staffing, 4 is Acacia Drive, and that's based on total points. I'm not sure which list, Tom, that you're looking at.
Yeah,
as
is was sent out to the group. This year, for the first time, the trustees assigned points 2 different ways. One was 12-1, with 12 being their number 1, down 11 for their second, 10 for their third, and that was what we've done in the past. So that's what I'm going to call the traditional way to assign points. The new way that we tried this year was to say you have 78 points, and you could put all 78 points with 1, or you could put 20, 20, 20, whatever. So that was the second way. And the list that I'm talking about is the traditional way with the 12 points down to 11. So that order is the long range planning, the savings potential for Wolf Road, and the triangle facade improvements. I did send out a sheet that had both rankings side by side using that 12-1. So back to, and Charlie, what you were talking about, I think the more community events, on one sheet it was 2 and the other sheet it was 4. So I think, Brenda, you were kind of saying we should do 1 more. So if the board wanted to do that one, for $10,000, I think that could, be added, and then we only save 10,000 less for Wolf Road. Again, that's up what the board wants to do.
Yeah, do we have to decide tonight on this? I suggest that the finance committee at our next meeting, we discuss this a little bit further and look at all available funds to us.
Yeah.
We don't have to decide, but I guess what I'm hearing is the long range planning, saving for Wolf Road, and am I hearing more community events bubbling up? I'm seeing Rita, I think Brenda, I think you for that. Charlie looks to be nodding. So maybe those are the ones that we're looking at. Chris, I think that, the finance committee won't weigh in on which one is better over the other, right? But they will zero in and say we have 178,000 or 150,000. But when we're talking about saving for Wolf Road, I think, we all know we can't save $1 million. So whether we save 70,000 or 80,000 or 100,000, that would be the buffer, right, in this effort. And I don't know if we would spend the 80,000 on the long range planning. John would start digging into that.
We may have some undesignated funds. I think we need to take a better look.
Right. I agree. We can't hear you, John.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
In looking at both lists, the commonalities between both lists are a long-range plan for village staff facilities, Wolf Road landscaping, more community events, and Sacagawea Park improvements installing the power. Those are very common in the top listing of both lists. So I think that there is some commonality in both methods that we use to track your points. So I would suggest we focus on long-range planning, saving for Wolf Road landscaping, more community events, and Sacagawea Park improvements.
Thank you, John. What are the board's comments to that? I guess I saw Chris thumb up, Rita thumb up, Charlie. Okay, so I guess what we're going to do is we've zeroed in on it. We will confirm it next month if that's okay. And John, you may have to hit mute. So we'll zero in on it. We'll have another finance committee. We'll come back to the budget, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. So any other comments about goals for the village board? All right, first reading.
If you could let me share my screen, or yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Share screen.
John, I made you the host.
I got it. Thank you. Okay, this is the first reading of the budget, and as you know, we'll have the public hearing / second reading at the March meeting, and we will vote on it formally at the April meeting. This is kind of a high-level overview of the budget, where we are, where we expect to be at the end of this fiscal year, which ends April 30th, and the start of the new fiscal year, which starts May 1st. So we're going to end the year, start the new year with about $3.2 million in the bank.
John, that budget that you're reading is from January. The one that you should be reading is from February 8th.
I think I am looking at the one I sent you.
The available balance was 487,000.
Okay. I'm giving you some broader information on this right now. We have self-imposed some restrictions on how we spend our money. We have a 4-month cash reserve requirement for operating expenses. For capital expenses, which are the bigger ticket items, road improvements, things of that nature, we have to have cash on hand over and above our operating reserve in order to pay for those. So it's very, very fiscally prudent and conservative. We have further self-imposed some restrictions on funds that we have. The $510,000 that we received for the sale of property to the Tollway is off the table, so to speak. And we received $253,000 in ARPA money, American Recovery Plan money. That's set aside also because we received that this year, but we're going to be looking to spend it next year along with the additional payment. So that's in the budget as a revenue and as an expense. So that comes off the table. So that gives us some operating cash in the opening balance of about $311,000 available cash for moving forward with the village. And so we can add that as revenues for the new budget. What all of this means is we have some breathing room. We've been working up to this for a long time, to a manner of sound budgeting practice and being fiscally conservative, not spending money where we don't have to. We do have some breathing room, so I'm very happy about that. So now, because we always want to do a balanced budget, we look at our revenues first, and then we base our expenses on expected available revenues. So here are some of the highlights for the revenues that we can expect to have. We can expect to get about $1 million in property taxes. And then we have some other areas. We have utility taxes that are tracking about the same this year as we expect next year. State taxes, state income tax is going higher, much higher than expected. The economy seems to be improving. The state of Illinois is collecting far more money. They are passing that share on to us. Also, sales tax for the state, we anticipate it being level from this year to next year, although it has increased from prior years. Our per capita tax will increase. Also, the local use tax, it's because we have a new census numbers, 4,065 people, so that also helps. And cannabis sales tax is also tracking much higher than expected. Originally, we thought 3,000. Now we're looking at $6,000, and that is also distributed on a per capita basis. As an aside, the state of Illinois collects more money in cannabis taxes than it does in liquor taxes. We're also seeing increases in gaming license, gaming fees, the tax we impose on our gaming machines. So all of this is adding to a very economically positive revenue output. So we expect revenues to exceed next year's numbers as opposed to this year's numbers, which are much better than last year's numbers. The grant revenue that we talk about in special funds going further down the project area are self-funding. So whatever grant money we get in, there's an expense associated with that. So it's a zero-sum game. So we will expect very positive revenues for the new fiscal year. On the expense side, I always point this out that the President and Board of Trustees serve without compensation. This happened about 7 years ago, and it should be noted that this is true public service. On the admin side, on the operations side for the admin department, it's tracking pretty much the same from this year to next year. We do have some salary increases in that we'll be talking about in closed session. There is one note though, in general, we added garbage stickers as a revenue and expense item, so that's a zero sum. And our liability insurance firm, we're part of a risk management agency. We've had some very good claim experience as of late, and the risk management pool invests all of the members' money. We have about 75 members, so interest earnings were very great last year. So we got a member rebate available to us. Normally our insurance premium is about $80,000, but we have enough in credits where for the last year, this year, and the next year, we can draw down on those reserves and have the reserves pay for our insurance premium. So it's a zero amount this year in the budget for expenses. It will happen again in about 2 years. We'll start adding it back. We keep a reserve amount just in case we have a couple bad years and our rates go up, so we can have stabilized liability insurance premium. So that's a note for that. In the building department, these charges are offset by building permit fees, so it's self-funding. Planning and zoning, it's a minimal amount for the Planning and Zoning Commission. In other areas, community relations, we're looking at upping it a little bit to have an additional movie in the park. Legal services stay about the same. We're still in labor negotiations, so expenses are higher than in the past couple of years for that. In all, other areas are remaining status quo from year to year. In the public works side, again, this is an operating budget, so it's typically the same from year to year. There aren't any real changes in the operating budget. We are looking to get a scissor lift device so that we can replace lights on village-owned street lights. It's about $6,000. Normally we hire a contractor in to do that for us, but we think over the long run, we can save money by doing it internally. On the building side, moving down further, we are looking to rekey the village hall with an electronic key system. It's been a few years since we've rekeyed the village hall, and we think with changes in personnel that this is a good security measure. We're also looking to replace some playground equipment at Kelly's Playground in Sacagawea Park that is becoming unsafe, or is on the way to becoming unsafe. On the police side, we have funding for 10 full-time officers, including the chief. It should be noted that we really haven't been fully staffed with full-time officers for at least 7 years. Either somebody's out on disability or they're leaving for other departments, and we have yet to hire officers. We're actually 2 full-time officers down now, and we're in the process of testing for that. So now the police department is on the staff side looking to be fully funded for staffing. Big change in the police department's budget is we're looking to increase spending in the IT department because we're looking to update our systems for security. It's called CGIS requirement. It's a requirement of the federal government that we keep certain data secure, and we have certain security protocols in place. Our IT advising company, AIS, is walking us through the process for that. We're also scheduled to replace 1 squad car. We have 7 squad cars in our fleet. We replace 1 every 7 years. And I can tell you that by the 7th year, maintenance costs are pretty extraordinary for that vehicle. So it is really cost beneficial to us to have a regular schedule on police department squad car swap out. And then at the end, we sell it at auction. It's a very good cost saving measure. When I came here, we were leasing vehicles, and so we would have to do a couple every year. This way, the payments are far more predictable and for budgeting purposes. On the motor fuel tax side, we're going to be looking to replace our street signs. This is going to be a multi-year program. It's come to our attention that the street signs that we have, the wood signs that we really like, are non-compliant with the uniform for manual traffic control devices. So we're going to be looking to replace the wood signs with something as attractive, but safer as far as visibility and breakaway ability if a car were to hit the street sign. So Public Works will be talking more about that at the public hearing for the budget. As to the capital projects, these are still in a state of development. We're receiving several grants, ARPA money for one, money through the Department of Economic Development is offering us some grant money for some capital replacement for streets and Joliet Road sidewalks. Again, these are self-funding. We have some grant money coming in for the Acacia Drive reconstruction. Mostly it's reimbursements for engineering services. So all of these are subject to change over the next couple months as we fully develop our capital plan. The water fund, moving on to page 17 of it. We're looking to have another IEPA loan for the repair of the pump house. It's located just behind Village Hall. Our pumps are too big for our needs, and they're older, so we're going to replace them with modern, more efficient pumps. And our switching gear, the electrical gear for the pump house, is actually unsafe, so we're upgrading our switch gear for that. It's going to be about $1 million project. We're going to go through the IEPA loan process to see what happens there. You may recall when we did the water main program for Old Town, it was a $2 million project, or $2.1 million project. We got $1.5 million in loan forgiveness for that through the IEPA and the federal government. So we're hoping that lightning will strike twice. So our $1.1 or $1.2 million project will be much less. In the event that we don't receive loan forgiveness, we do have a plan in place to pay off the loan very quickly. Other capital projects in the water department, We're looking to replace a section of water main on Joliet Road that has been previously identified in our long-range capital plan. And we're looking also to do reservoir repairs. We have a 500,000 gallon reservoir at the pump house just behind Village Hall, and it's in need of repair. We're also looking at doing about $250,000 in sanitary sewer maintenance and repair for in the next year. We have about $186,000, $150,000 to $200,000 in wiggle room in the general fund and special funds. That's what I talked about earlier with the mayor. And we have about $800,000 in wiggle room in the water department. But then again, that is committed for long range budgeting. The long and short is we are spending within our means. We have a long range capital plan in place so we know what our needs are, and we can be best stewards of public money. I mean, this is tax dollars at work. We want to make sure that we are spending them appropriately. And if you read my budget message, the village is committed to transparency in our budgeting, and our financial records are available online. Even our credit card statements are online, and you can look at them anytime you want via our webpage. So that's kind of the overview of the budget. It's a good budget, I think, and I'd like to thank Andy and Helia for their assistance in preparing this with me. It's a pretty complex document, and it's becoming more and more complex as time goes on. So we might be looking at some specialized budgeting software in the future. Right now, we do it on an Excel spreadsheet, and we go back and forth with it. We still get errors periodically, but it's a good document, and I'm very proud of it. I think it's some of the best things that we do for the village. So if you have any questions, please ask.
I just want to state my thanks to Hallie and John and Andy and the board. We've come a long way to get a budget in this shape. When we started, it didn't seem like we had much money to work with, and it also seemed like we weren't getting anywhere. But we have accomplished quite a bit in the last so many years, and it's great to know that that we're in a healthy position.
And I agree with what Chris said, in that when I first started, we were in the red, and we have come a long ways over the year, and just want to give congratulations to John and Helia, and that as far as where we have come, and that, so it's really nice that we're able to finally do things in the black and be able to make improvements within the village without worrying about anything.
And not have to go to a road bond to repair our roads. Is terrific as well.
Yes.
I will read Sean Kennedy's comment. Great work to all, and thank you. Question is how we do as far as how'd we do versus last year's budget?
It looks like we will have revenues far over expenses for the current budget year. So that will help us roll over, but we've had consistently budgets that are in the black. We typically do spend less than we budget, and we are able to roll over that money. And just because if we roll over money doesn't mean that we're having a deficit. We tend to save for things so we can pay cash for them, so we don't have to go out to bond issues. I know that the board as a whole is debt averse. We had a long conversation about whether or not we should even go to the IEPA for a loan for the improvements in Old Town, Black Hawk Trail, for instance. But when it turned out that the cost of interest was far, far less than the cost of water main breaks, it was a no-brainer as far as going down that road. And yes, we took out a loan and we had a 30-year payback, and we're going to pay it back in 3.5 years because we have the money to do it. And then that way we can do other capital improvements in the future. The board has really set a high standard for themselves, and I'm glad that we as a team can meet those standards. It's a community, a board, and staff process. And all three of those components are being met. So thank you. Oh, and we also received the Distinguished Budget Award. That memo or that certificate will be in the new budget. And we'll look to submit this budget for that award next year as well.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I think that should be in the smoke signals as well, Jen. So
Good point.
Yes, thank you.
That comes up.
Other comments?
So for Trustee Metz, I went and looked at some other community budgets surrounding us, and all they have are spreadsheets. We have a story. So
That's one of the reasons you got hired.
thank you.
You promised us that in your interview.
Okay, I don't see any other comments for trustees. Okay, we're going to go on to the next agenda item. John, you may need a mute. Trustee reports. We'll start with Trustee Eck. You're muted right now, Charlie.
I'm unmuted now. Just to say, no report other than what Rita and I have been doing on planning and zoning. And you've already heard that. There's a lot more coming up, going through planning and zoning in regards to sheds, still focusing on the area behind the Walgreens. And then there's also sheds in west of Wolf Road as well that we haven't even gotten to yet. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Mayor.
Yeah, a couple things. The communications committee met Tuesday night and went over the results of the survey and also discussed the direction of the board from the last meeting on smoke signals. It was only Susan and I, the committee members that were there. The prior meeting, we had talked about, discontinuing it after 6 months, but given the board's direction to keep it as a quarterly publication and the results of the survey, that's where we're at with it right now. Although committee member French tonight made her position clear that she would like to see it continue on as a monthly publication, and I guess I would ask for direction from the board on that. It sounds like we had the money to do it. So I'd like to get some direction on that, first of all. And then secondly, on the 23rd, I'm going to be going to the Heritage Center with Gene Sutherland, John, Andy, and our village inspector to go through the building. I understand there are some things that need to be addressed there, and we're going to try and come up with a comprehensive list of those things, as well as a estimate of the cost to address those matters. And I will be bringing that back before the board, hopefully at the March meeting, to consider as to where we go with that.
Thank you, Rita. Does a trustee want to give any feedback to Rita about the smoke signals?
Or, just stay in the same, or, stay with the same position that the board kind of indicated last time, which was quarterly.
Yeah. And I'm still for quarterly.
Okay, we'll move on to Trustee O'Loughlin.
I have nothing to report this time.
Thank you. Trustee Metz. You're muted.
Sorry. Okay, I'll start over. The Finance Committee is meeting Monday, February 21st at 6 p.m. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Kennedy texted me his Public Works report. that they're working on replacing the damaged snowplow, the one that caught fire, and bringing the new street signs mentioned earlier to the public very soon. I think we'll have a demonstration at some point, what we're looking at.
Next month's meeting.
Next month's meeting. Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. Next up is, who got distracted there? Is that everybody? Eileen is out, okay. Oh, and of course, Trustee Kennedy, a big thanks to the Public Works Group about snow plowing and getting truck solutions to help us in this time when we were down a truck. All right, Village Treasurer, anything to report?
No report.
Thank you, Village Clerk, I'm sorry, I missed you. My apologies.
No report.
Okay, Village Attorney.
No report. We seek in a closed session later in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Village Administrator.
I've already gone over the budget timeline, so no comments after that.
Assistant Village Administrator.
Yeah, I have a few things. First, we have determined and set a date for our electronics, paint recycling, and shred day. We had originally thought about doing it in April, but due to scheduling conflicts, it is going to be May 21st, which is a Saturday, and that will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Public Works facility, which is at 11308 70th Place. And we'll be advertising in smoke signals and signage and getting the word out as much as we can. And included in smoke signals will be a list of allowed materials and things that you shouldn't bring, like hazardous materials. So that's the plan for that. And secondly, in regards to building report, in the month of January, the village issued 4 new building permits, which resulted in approximately $18,000 in building department fees. Which is quite high for the month, mostly due to a little over $1 million commercial remodel at Briar Place. And then the final thing I have to report on is the facade improvement program and kind of where we're at with that and where we're headed. I know this was something that was kind of in the upper half of the village goals for the board. So basically where we've been is staff has investigated possible grant funding for the project. And unfortunately, most federal and state grants do not cover aesthetic improvements like facade. So that cancels out that side of the equation. And on the other end, most grants or loans for businesses exclude landlords. So that cancels out that side. In addition to the staff's investigation into grant funding, the Economic Development Committee has been looking to get some quotes and has already gotten 2 quotes for facade improvement. And the quotes vary quite a bit. One of them was around $300,000. The other was around $700,000. And so that's a brief summary of where we've been. But going forward, the next step really would be to have the village sit down with the property owner of the plaza and to determine really how much he's willing to commit to the project. I think everybody so far in the discussion has agreed that he would need to have some skin in the game to finance part of the project at least. And then in regards to say the project goes forward, in order to finance the village's portion, we still do have some options. We could do something it's called tax sharing agreements. This is actually something the village has done in the past. In 1998, when the Brookside Plaza Mall was being developed, the village entered into an economic incentive agreement at the time with the developer. And the specifics of that agreement was that for up to 10 years, the village was going to pay the developer 50% of the sales tax revenue, up to $550,000. And so in order to finance a facade improvement, we could enter into a similar kind of agreement. It doesn't have to be just sales tax. It could be property tax or gaming taxes from the plaza. So there are options to finance facade improvement should the project go forward. And that's really where we're at and where we're headed.
Thank you, Andy.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
For building permits, have we issued a permit yet for the insurance building on Joliet Road?
So they have submitted their materials. They're still under review, so it's not been granted yet, but it's in the process.
Okay, it's safe to assume they're not going to be done by March of this year.
No.
Okay. I never did believe that one, but okay. Thank you.
They wanted to be, but yeah. No.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all I had to report.
Thank you very much. Department head, pump house schedule update, John?
We're looking at the project for the pump house. We'll look to let the bids in August of this year with completion probably in September of 2023. This is going to be a rather complex project in that we will have to actually go on LaGrange Highlands water system and the Village of Burr Ridge's water system while certain improvements are being made. So coordination with those two entities will be kind of critical. We will have an engineering plan available for you, and we will let the board know step by step what's going to be happening. But it's going to be a long process. It's just not something where I was hoping we could just do it all in a couple of days, have everything stand by and moving, but it's a process and it's going to take 13 months. So stand by for more information. So thank you. And Mike does have something for us.
Mike?
Non-police related really, but it just wanted to give you the results of our 2021 blood drive that we were involved with last year. We had 4 collection dates and we collected 51 units of blood. And our next blood drive is going to be March 3rd here in the parking lot again. It'll be 10:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
We just conducted our initial Quicket training, which is electronic ticketing and accident reporting. We finished the ticket portion, and the trainers will then come back in a couple of weeks for the officers to be trained in the accident reporting portion of the program.
Thank you. Anything else? Chief?
No, that's all I
Okay.
have. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. All right, we're at the end of the public meeting. We have public comments. Anybody in the Zoom would like to make a comment? I see Susan waving and you're muted, and I know you're unmuting. Thank you.
I am unmuting now. Do you have the copy of the poll results? All right, I cannot find it. Sorry. All right, so what I wanted to show you and what I sent in an email was a copy of the poll results showing how important it was to have the printed copies of the smoke signals.
Yeah, it was in the email.
All right. It was very important that we have the smoke signals every month. And Chris, quarterly, I'm sorry, but it doesn't keep the villagers up to date, and it's not transparent enough. Old news is worthless news. The other thing I wanted to say is that looking at the winter 2022 copy of the smoke signals is that we were talking about mailing and printed things. So we got 280 responses to the poll, 222 physical copies returned, and 58 entries submitted electronically. That even shows how much more important having paper copies of things to residents is. Okay, so that is just super, super important. And I don't understand why, based on the responses we got from the poll, you would want to go quarterly. It just, it's bananas. It makes no sense. Okay.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else? I do not see any. Would somebody like to make a motion to go to closed session for the purposes of review of closed session minutes per 5 ILCS 120/2 parentheses C in parentheses 21 and personnel per 5 ILCS 120/2 parentheses C in parentheses 1 and collective bargaining 5 per ILCS 120/2 parentheses C in parentheses 2.
I'll make a motion as you just stated.
And that also includes that it's to adjourn the regular meeting and go into closed session for those purposes with no intention to return.
Thank you, Chris. Pat, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rita. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Mitz,
Aye.
trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy.
He says
Trustee
thumb
Kennedy?
up. Sorry.
Okay, got it. Trustee Farrell Mayor
Aye.
and trustee Eck.
Aye.
All right, that's been approved. Thank you all very much. Everybody have a good evening. We'll take a 1 or 2 minute break and we'll be back on Zoom in a moment for a closed session.